Okay, so let's start with some basic principles of friction. When talking about friction, you'll see this graph a lot. In this graph, friction is separated into two categories. One is called static friction, the other is called dynamic friction. And during static friction situation, the relationship between friction and applied external force is linear. So when applied external force increases, the friction will increases. But when during the dynamic friction situation, the friction is a constant number. So let's take a look at this graph with a simple example. Say there is a box on the table and you want to move the box. So you apply the force to the box, but if you push it not hard enough, then the box will not move, right? Why? Because there is friction right here. And the friction is just the same, the amount of friction is just the same as the force you apply. So force equals to friction, the box will not move. That'll be in static situation. So the friction right now is called static friction. But say if you really want to move the box, you increase your force applied to the box. Then when your force exceeds the friction that the contact surface can provide, the box will start to move. In this situation, the friction is called dynamic friction. What if the friction is actually smaller than the force? Man, that's impossible. If you put a box on the table, you didn't apply force to it, but the box started to move, man, leave that room immediately. Okay, so that's like how we categorize friction. When an object's not moving, it's called static friction. And in this situation, the force will equal to the friction. So when you increase force, the friction will increase correspondingly. So that's a linear relationship. But if your external force exceeds the friction and the object starts to move, then in that situation, the friction is called dynamic friction, and it's a constant number. Okay, so in next video, we'll talk about this in detail with the same simple example.